Hey everybody, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I'm here to share with you guys a guest designer project that I did for Dr. Digi's House of Stamps. This adorable Digi is called Surfin Santa, and I fell in love with it the minute I saw it. And I thought I would share with you guys how I decided to do kind of almost no-line coloring with this Digi. So first off, I opened Microsoft Word, and I'm showing you how I inserted or imported this Digi, and voila, it's right in there, and I'm just moving it up, and I'm using a control and then my mouse to resize it down a little bit. I wanted the card image to be a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to go and hit that color tab. All of this is under the format tab that you see in the middle there, and I'm coloring it a gold color rather than black. And then I'm going to brighten and lower the contrast, and then I'm also going to have it less saturated and a little fuzzier. And then I'm just going to take that image and print it out on my printer. So this is the image printed out, and I could have probably gone a little bit lighter, but my vision isn't that great, so I kind of like the added help of being able to see the lines a little bit more clearly. But if you wanted real no-line coloring, that process helps you, make the image much lighter. And now I'm going to just share with you guys my Copic coloring. This is one of my favorite kind of holiday color combinations. I love using teal and red and white. And so first I'm coloring up this little surfboard with this BG color family. And I'm trying to find a good mid-tone to carry the darkest to the lightest area. And this darkest area, I'm getting in with the BG45 and the BG15. They're reading almost the same to me, at least in my eyes. So I decided to go back and get a BG32 to get a little bit more of a mid-tone that will blend better with that BG11, that lighter color. And I wanted the surfboard stripes to show up with this teal, and then I decided to move over to Santa's little swim trunks, and I'm going to just lay down the red, the base R35, and then I'm going to take those cues from the image and color in the darkest R39. It's almost like an oxblood. It's really dark, and then I'm going to go out and blend a little bit away from those shadowed areas. From his crotch, under his belly, on the edges, those areas would be darker, and I'm blending that out with that mid-tone. Now for his skin, I wanted to give him a pinky complexion. Santa's usually up in the North Pole, but if he's vacationing or something, this card is actually going to be one that I do for a friend who lives in Hawaii. And so I wanted to give Santa not quite a sunburnt look, but a pinky hue. So I've chosen some earth tone colors that have that kind of pinky undertone. So I started with an E00, and now I'm laying in the shadowed areas here with the E11, that's the darkest areas. So the part under his beard, under each finger, and the Santa image has some really fat fingers. So it's actually pretty easy to shade this image. Now I'm going to go back and kind of blend with that E01, and that connects that E11 to that E00 pretty well. I have to go over the E11 area a little bit because the alcohol in the ink that's coming out is kind of pushing against that E11. So if you just go over it very lightly with that mid-tone, it blends really nicely. I want to just try to make sure that all the areas where I think there'll be a little bit more shadow, like under his glasses, that little cheek at the bottom, under his nose, all those areas have a little bit of shading. I'm using an R30 here to give a little bit of a rosy hue to his cheeks and to his nose, and I'm blending back out with that E00. Now I'm trying to get kind of the sketchy lines of the Copic coloring to disappear a little bit, blending out with that E00 again. And the eyes that you see peering over those sunglasses, I'm leaving white at this point. I realized at this point that I had forgotten to color his legs and his feet, his toes. So I'm going back and doing the same color combinations that I did for the rest of his body. I'm laying in the E00, then finding the shadowed areas with that E11, marking those out. You know, the cast shadow underneath his little flip-flop sandals, on the bottoms of his feet, each toe, the inside of his legs, his calves, his heels, and then I'm blending back out with that E01. And it's a pretty good blend. I try to get the sketchiness again out with that lightest color going over one last time. I decided at this point that his flip-flops could also be the same color as his surfboard. So I'm laying down the base color of BG 11, and then every other stripe on his flip-flop strap, I'm coloring that same color. Now I'm going to lay in that darkest shadow color with a BG 45, making sure to leave a little highlight area at the front of his sandals, but making the top of his sandals where his foot lands darker. I also want the stripes to have a little bit of color, so or dimension, so I'm shading in the darkest areas closest to his body and the lighter areas out further, because I figured that's probably how the light would hit it. His belly might cast a bigger shadow, so it might be darker on those stripes on his flip-flops closer to his body. Now I am gonna color his toenails in R11. I wanted a little pinky hue there, just a hint of it. Now I'm going to color his sunglasses, that C9. That's a cool gray, because I knew I didn't need to have the kind of warm tones of something that I would normally color with a W or warm gray. These glasses are just going to look almost black, but not quite black. I could have gone with 100, but I wanted a little bit of softness, so I went with that C9. Now I'm going to go and start his mustache and his beard. And this is starting to look a little bit dark, but once the whole card is put together, this area will look like it's kind of not like a pure white Santa beard. I mean, he's off duty. That's my take on it. So he's looking a little bit grungy, kind of more bohemian, a beachy kind of Santa. And I'm trying to just figure out how to indicate that there's kind of segments or sections of his beard that have kind of a curl to them. So I'm just kind of flicking. I first started with that shadowed color, that W3. Now I'm going back in with a W1, just flicking and adding more textured look to that beard and mustache. And I'm trying to follow the lines of kind of the curve of that beard so it looks like it has dimension in my flicking. Now I'm going to add more flicking and a little lighter tone with that W0. And I think once I finished doing this last layer of flicking, it's coming together looking like it's real hair there. Now I decided I'm gonna try and add a little bit more texture here, I think, and making sure that I catch his comb over and his eyebrows. And I decide I'm going to re-emphasize the darkest shadowed areas under his nose where his mustache meets his nose, under his mustache where the beard meets his mustache, where at the temples behind his ears and sunglasses, there's going to be a little bit more of shadowed areas. And I did this because when you add in lighter layered inks over top of that first initial round of putting in the shadows, it will kind of desaturate or lighten that shadowed area. So I wanted to re-establish that. I tried to get into that under his ear area a little bit darker even, but I found that that W5 is too dark. So I'm doing a point-to-point coloring technique. So I'm taking the W3 in my right hand, touching the tip of the W5 to carry over slightly a little bit more of that darker ink, but not go totally dark with just the W5. And I think that tip to tip really helped bridge the fact that I don't have a W4. Now I'm just gonna lay in the ground here. I thought I would do a golden sandy beach. And you see, I've made a mistake on the surfboard right where the bottom of his shorts meets. That's supposed to be white. That's a white stripe on that surfboard, but I've made a mistake. And I'm thinking about it as I'm coloring in the rest of the sand. I've used a golden yellow orange, and then a lighter one, and then a yellow. And I'm trying to establish the shadows underneath his little flip-flops and where the surfboard meets the sand. And then at the very front, I don't know if I got the cap lid out, but that is a Y13 actually, because I wanted it really bright and yellow. Now I'm taking an O, this is a colorless blender, and I'm pushing back the ink toward that shorts. And then I'm going to go in with the darkest R39 of his shorts and reestablish just a sharp edge there. And you saw how much of a mistake there was, but with 2 rounds, I only caught one on video, 2 rounds of pushing that ink with that colorless blender, it really helped make that area look white. And now with an N1, I'm going to add a little bit of a neutral gray to add some contrast or shadowing, even to those white stripes. And I think that completely hides that little coloring mistake that I had made, and it adds nice dimension. With a white gel pen, this is a Signo white gel pen, I am adding some highlight marks to his sunglasses, and even on the edge where the sunglass arms go behind his ears. I'm also adding a little shine to his nose, and even little highlights on his toenails, just for a little shiny look. For his sunglasses, I also decided to coat that with some Ranger Glossy accents. I have to let this fully dry, but that's going to add a high shine. Now for the background. I wanted just a simple kind of blended ink background, so I'm going to start with the sandy color at the base. I'm using fossilized amber and spiced marmalade here. Then with a slightly darker or mid-tone blue, I'm using Salty Ocean. All of these, by the way, are Distress Oxide inks because I wanted a really smooth blend, and I find that the oxide inks do that a little better. So I'm just really fast forwarding this, but adding these blended colors together. It almost creates a bit of a rainbow look, but the idea is kind of a blurred out background. And the top section there is a blueprint sketch. And I'm leaving a little bit of white there because I wanted kind of the idea of some maybe clouds in the distance. And now I'm just sprinkling some water. This is plain water from a spray bottle, and I'm blotting it with a tissue to create kind of a splotchier look. For the Santa's holding a surfboard with the sand, I fussy cut that out, and then I'm just placing that over top of the background. I'm going to cut it down a little bit and put it on a plain white card base, just with a little peak of the white all the way around. For the inside sentiment, I printed out on my computer Mele Kalika Maka, which means Merry Christmas in Hawaiian. And I had a little image of a palm tree with a surfboard and a little bicycle in my stash. I fussy cut that out, and now I'm adding some red gems, some little rhinestones. This is the completed card. I had so much fun coloring up this Digi with some no-line Copic coloring. I hope you enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this Digi or this style of Digi, please check out Dr. Digi's House of Stamps. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you guys are having a wonderful crafty day.